All right.
So I've been doing some research about the claims that Generation Alpha can't read. Yeah, you look confused. I saw a video on YouTube and they said that there are lots of TikToks where people are saying Generation Alpha can't read. And these are Generation Z. So these are like 21, 22, 23-year-old teachers, new teachers, going to schools and saying Generation Alpha are awful. They can't behave, they don't behave well, they don't listen, they don't follow instructions, and they just can't read. Now, there are some older teachers saying this as well, millennial age or generation teachers. Why people use millennials and Gen Z and Gen Alpha, I don't know, because there's no, like, from what I can find, there's no actual cutoff line. It's just roughly this age and roughly that age. So the about 10 years-ish between generations. Uh, but claims have been put out there that millennials just can't parent and Gen Alpha just can't read. Now, I have looked at the numbers, looked at the stats, and done a bit of a deep dive, but I figured I'd give you some room to speak because obviously you are
I'm
literally in
so
that category.
fascinated.
I mean, you are literally a millennial
I
parent.
am a millennial parent. Can my kids read? Absolutely. It's hard to stop them. They have
Exactly.
such interest in reading. Like, it's hard to get them to not read what's on my screen whenever they walk through. They are constantly half listening to what I'm saying here. They're literally in the living room, probably half listening. My assumption, my guess, my hypothesis is
Hmm.
that the teachers aren't capturing their interest. The teachers are just not looking at the child and are just doing the textbook, sit down, shut up, do this. And it appears from society and what we see that they are more likely to do what feels good for them versus force themselves into a what they're just told to do because they're told to do it. Because this is quite hilarious an experience with my daughter. She was starting to learn crochet with my brother, and she learned it a particular way
Oh.
because she was told there's only one way to do it, otherwise your hands hurt. Then she started doing it at school, and now she's picked up bad habits and has now got to relearn. And I opened up a dialogue with my daughter this morning about that. I said, look, your hand may hurt if you do it a different way, but how can you figure out how to make it not hurt? If you want to use two hands, there is not one way. There's never one way of doing something. There might be more efficient ways, but there is not one.
And
So
I
it's
think that for me, quickly, I think that when it comes to like oh, it's going to hurt your hands. How do you know it's going to hurt your hands? When people talk to me about my posture, oh, that's bad for your back. My back's fine. Like everyone is going to be slightly different, and just because it hurts your hands doesn't mean it's going to hurt their hands.
mm.
Especially with her, I imagine she's smaller than people teaching her, so maybe her small hands help her do whatever it is she's doing.
And also, I think it was something about her grabbing the hook with her other hand and switching hands. She was trying to uh, crochet. I don't fully understand any of it, but I think that's what it was. And I'm wondering, perhaps it's a small hand. So she needs to have a second hand pulling it through. But she did complain that her hands were sore, but she'd spent all day doing it.
Yeah. If you do something long enough, you'll get sore and achy doing it.
So yeah.
Yeah, going back to the teacher example, where you said you reckon it's the teachers not potentially paying well, not giving co-agency in the learning environment, i.e., giving the child some sort of agency when it comes to the decisions about what's in the classroom. That is what I thought as well. And when I was looking into uh, the data, the data doesn't support the claims at all. In fact, the data actually goes against the claims because when I heard these, for context, when I heard these claims, I had just read through the PISA 2022 report, which came out at the end of 2023. And when I looked at the American stats, I remembered reading proficiency, according to PISA, had actually increased, not
Mm.
decreased. So I was like, huh, okay. And again, for context, most of these claims came from American teachers. Uh, so I thought, okay, well, if teachers are saying that Gen Alpha can't read, but the PISA report that came out literally 2 or 3 months ago said American reading proficiency is increasing. What in the world is going on? So I look further into the stats, and yes, PISA are 15 and Gen Alpha is like 12 and younger, but I mean it's still pretty close. So I was looking at the stats, and it's the NAEP, the National Assessment for Educational Progress in America. It's those stats that were being used to say, oh, reading proficiency is really bad, etc., etc. But they don't actually look at the numbers because the numbers are exactly the same to 1992. Like 1992, that's a long time ago. Some of the Gen Alpha parents weren't even born yet. um, and when I look at the reading numbers, the stats that they're using, the standardized test stats, which I'll get to in a second, uh, they were based on math, English, reading, and science through ACT scores and some of the other standardized tests. So they're not looking at reading scores and saying, oh, our reading is really bad. No, they're looking at general scores across the board for all competencies, mashing it together and saying, oh, look, our reading is bad. You're like, no, maybe they're just bad at math.
And I also think from what I've seen, there is a problem with reading literacy in America across the board, supposedly. Not just at that age, but there is, from my understanding, that's what is told everywhere. That's what you hear in a society basis is that, well, our reading literacy has dropped. We're all, you know,
Our
we're all
reading age is
illiterate.
young. That's what's it's the reading
Yeah.
age. Oh, everyone's reading age is young. And yes, but zooming out,
Mm.
American reading age is young, but so is every other country in the world. And the reason I would suggest that is because when we look at effective workers and we test them on something they don't do, they get poor results.
Yeah.
And unless the adults are needing to read complex texts, why would they learn to read them? Like, and unless you're going to get an adult reading an academic article, they're not going to read that sort of complex text. Unless they're reading poetry or dense books, they're not going to learn to read because learning how to read, well, it's going to depend on the text that you're reading. Children learning how to read is, okay, can you read the next word to follow instructions? And most adults can do that. Great, you can read. But when you're reading complex text, you're still learning how to read. It's just a different text. The words are bigger. The words look more complicated.
Reminding
So,
me of a conversation I was having with Carl the other day, because it was actually between me, Carl, and my other half around how I just take information in like a sponge. And I'm like, well, that depends on one, what information it is, or you read stuff so fast. I said, once again, that depends on the information I'm reading. Yeah, but you can take all this stuff. Yeah, because most of it is very, it's not dense.
it's familiar to you.
It's familiar to me. It's stuff that I already have expertise in, and because my expertise is in like I care about how the brain works, I find that interesting. I'm a coach, personal development. A lot of it has been already said. And it's been stuff I've been reading for years. So it's not the fact that I'm a faster reader, it's the fact that I've got expertise. Oh, so if I was to give you a car book, would you be able to read? I probably wouldn't. No, I'd be slower. But what I would be able to do is adapt it to something that I'd be interested in. I'd probably be tempted to take the engine thing and think about it in this way or that way, and so that I could read it.
Mm.
Unless I just wouldn't.
But that's it. That's the point. And this is where I think the ecological view and explaining this Gen Alpha can't read, well, ecologically speaking, what is their reason for learning? If we learn through experience, empiricism, and we have goal-directed behaviors, and we learn through the goal-directed behaviors, if our goal isn't to read academic, dense, complex texts, we're not going to learn to read that stuff. And the same with children. If their goal isn't to be able to read how Kip and Pippa went to the park and did, if they don't care, they're not going to read it. So going back to your point about the teachers finding a reason for the children to learn, if the children don't have a reason, a motivation, a goal to learn how to read that text, then they're not gonna do it. Like, they're just not, unless there is a reason. And most people's or most children's reasons in school is, well, you need to pass the test.
Mm.
Otherwise, you won't be able to do this, or your parents will do that. And now you have consequences to the reading, but the consequences are external. Like
Yeah,
the child doesn't care. It makes them go, okay, I need to pass the test so I get to go to sport, or I get to go to my club, or I get to play my game, or I get to go on. So they're not actually learning for the long term. They're learning for short-term gratification, which is what all of the teachers don't want. But that's what the teachers are doing in the environment that they're creating, potentially. In the environment they're potentially creating by saying, oh, yeah, you need to learn, you need to get good grades so you can go and play. Well,
yeah,
no, now they're just going to memorize the words so they pass the test. Then when they leave school, they're not going to read for the next 5, 10 years because they don't need to. It's the same with spelling, same with
yeah,
grammar. Uh, I, I've said in the previously that I don't like reading. And I don't like reading, but I'm a competent reader. And the reason I say I don't like reading the fiction, the storybooks, is I was forced to do it as a kid because that's how I had to read. Like, you have to read 10 pages a day because that's your homework for reading. Did I read the words? That's what I would question. I sounded the words out as they were meant to be sounded out. Did I take meaning from them? No. Did I know what the story was saying? No. What was I paying attention to? The page number.
yeah.
Oh, I've got 2 pages left before I can go to literally anything else. Is that
Mm.
reading? Wait,
No.
from the outside, it looks like reading. The first book I fully read was a academic textbook about sports coaching, and that was at 19. I should probably add caveat. The first book I fully read and could remember anything about the story. Like, my mum was telling me about the story that I read, so I knew what was going on because I was reading to her as homework. Like, she was listening to the story more than I was, and I was the one supposedly reading it.
Yeah, primary school was terrible for that. They were like, "Oh, make sure he reads 10 pages. 10 pages? 10 pages? He reads entire books in a day. Or can he read with it? Why? Well, to prove he's reading. Trust me, he's reading."
If if he can tell you about the story, then he must be reading it.
Yeah,
All you got to do is say, "So what's the book about?" If they go, "I don't know,"
yeah,
you know they're not reading. Yeah, and this is where I feel the teacher education that I'm looking into. I look at it and go, okay, parents are teaching better than teachers, but teachers have the so-called educational qualification. Some parents and some teachers obviously add caveats in there. So I really want to understand, like, from a parent's perspective, how or are you worried about what the teachers do at school with your kids?
no, probably not because yes, yeah, I am. I am worried because what I definitely don't want is for them to be put off from what they think is learning to the point where it stops genuine interest, so that it stops lifelong learning. But then at the same time, is that ever going to happen? Unlikely, because if they are directed if they want to achieve something, they have a goal-directed behavior, they're going to go do everything they can to do it. Like my son is a good example, actually. Both my son and daughter have started watching, I don't remember what it's called. It is these flags on, there's a YouTube channel, where they're basically flags as balls. I can't remember what it's called now, so someone will probably let me know what it is.
I've seen
Um,
it.
yeah, and Aiden is forever, if he's on his laptop, that's what he sits and watches. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. So I went and watched it as well because I was like, because what he was doing is that, can I watch something and do this? And I realized what he was doing was trying to give me what I wanted or what he thought I wanted, which was, oh, I want to write this recipe, I want to write this one shot, I want to write this, and this, and that, and that. And then when it came down to it, it never happened. He was watching those videos, and I'm like, what are you actually like? Do you actually want to write those things and do those things, or are you doing it because you think that's what I want you to do so that you can get what you want? And I'm like, yeah. It's like, right, well then don't say that. If you just want to watch YouTube, say you want to watch YouTube. Will I let you do it every time? No. Just like I won't let you on your laptop every time. However, at least, and so we sat and I put it on because I was like, okay, cool. What's he watching? Because YouTube, obviously. Um,
Need to be a little bit
uh,
careful.
yeah, and I was watching this. It's like, all right, fair enough. This is actually quite good. It's quite interesting. And even I was just sat watching it, and it was stuff to do with Russia and Ukraine, and it was really quite interesting. And so, like, okay, cool. So he has an interest in society about what's happening in the world.
I was going to say, that's politics.
I'm not surprised that my son is into politics. He's interested in politics. Okay, cool. How can I set up how can I set up this environment so that he can do more of that? He's interested in that. Okay, cool. So now he has a magazine coming in a couple of weeks, in a week or so's time, with more stuff that is kid friendly, which keeps it kid friendly.
I'm curious on that because around this sort of like Gen Alpha conversation, like gentle parenting came up and unsuitable online content came up, and the kid friendly, child friendly content was a heavy part of the conversation. And they were saying when we were younger, we had like films and stuff on TV, and there were certain slots, and there was lots of conversation about there's not much kid-friendly stuff out there nowadays. And I want to know what kid-friendly means.
Yeah.
Because when I
I
think
think
about
it might be I think it's the assumption of age appropriate.
still, what does that mean?
But it depends on the child.
Exactly. I mean, when I think back to when I was younger, not that long ago, well, 20 years ago, um, I was yeah, uh, I was when I was going to football, when I went in the car with my mum, we'd listen to whatever was on the radio, sort of like pop song sort of stuff. But when I was in the car with my dad, I'd listen to my dad's music. And for those unfamiliar, Marilyn Manson. He is not very child friendly, let's put it that way.
No.
No, Marilyn Manson uses lots of expletives, and I was 6, 7, 8 listening to this. I was screaming it from the top of my lungs in the car, because I didn't know what those words meant, but I was loving it. And it was great. And I liked going in the car with my dad to football because I could say all these words that I was told at school I couldn't say. Did I know what it meant? No. Did I use them outside the car? No, because I knew I was going to get told off. But it gave me the time to just be like try to be an adult sort of thing. And is that child friendly? Most people would say no, but I actually learned a lot of the words and what a lot of the words meant whilst listening to that music, because I said to my dad, like, what does that word mean? What does that word mean? Insert all the expletives. um and he explained them to me. And unless a child is exposed to something that's traditionally adult, they're not going to learn what those things are.
Mm.
And when you do that, I think is completely like I would say it's up to the parent, but it's not entirely up to the parent because the child's going to come across it, and the child at some point is going to say, "Mum, Dad, what does this word mean?" And you can't just say, "I'm not going to tell you yet. You're not old enough," because then they're just going to try and find out on their own.
Yeah,
That's what I did. I asked friends at school, "What does this mean? What does that mean?" We came up with really wrong answers to what things actually meant, but you could argue that's even worse. Children coming up with different meanings for words that actually have meanings. Um, so yeah, what
yeah.
is child friendly?
Good question that I do not have an answer for. What do I think it is?
I must you
I
must
don't think I
restrict
don't. I just don't think it exists.
your children from watching something because, or do you just let them watch everything?
There's not a lot we restrict them from as long as there is conversation and we are around. There's not a lot we really restrict. They swear because we swear, and it is completely in. I cannot go, no, you cannot swear when I sit there swearing all the time. Like, am I going to stop swearing? I would love to stop swearing, but will I? No.
But that right there is vocabulary. For me, I don't understand why people shouldn't swear.
Mm.
That's just me when it comes to language. If there is a word that is more appropriate, then I would use that word.
Yes, but otherwise, I am going to swear.
Like, if I stub my toe, I'm going to say shit or fuck because it
Yeah,
hurts.
yeah.
That's what I'm going to do. But
Whether or not, yeah, and that's the same with them. It's like, why am I going to restrict your language? Which irritates the heck out of my family, but that's beside the point. Um, Societal bollocks. But
I think it goes back to like the Queen's English and the should be spoken language. But let's be real, most people abbreviate words so there's not the Queen's English anyway. Well, King's English now, I guess. And and it's funny when I look online, there are so many sort of cultural and social constraints to how we speak, how we're meant to speak, expectations, and I sit here and think, yeah, but why? Why do we add these social constraints? And this is where I think the Gen Alpha or just in general, children don't behave, they don't do what we expect. No, because they don't have these social constraints. They don't understand these social constraints and why they should abide to them.
mm.
So they don't.
And it's up to us to train them. But then you think about it, if you follow the society, if we use societal language like millennials are tired, they just don't care anymore. They're just like, well, fuck it. Like, I'm gonna do this differently. And so you see that dripping down in how they treat their kids and how they communicate, the gentle parenting. Eh, eh. I don't see it as gentle parenting. I see it really the way that I treat my kids as little adults. Yes, there are constraints I do, but outside of those limited constraints that they have, what they do is up to them. As long as they are safe, you know, they don't do their homework, well, you're in trouble for that. I'm not going to fight you and I'm bored. Okay, well, what are you going to do then? I want to go on my tech. Okay, that's not available to you right now. So what are you going to do? Because you're tired and I can tell you're tired. Are you tired? Yeah, I'm tired. Okay. Do you really want to be on there now? You have an abundance of energy, an awful lot of energy. How are you feeling about that? And it's just a discussion. We go from there.
But all I would want to add to that is I don't understand why parents, like the gentle parenting parents, add a label to parenting. Because what you're doing is obviously you're educating. You are a teacher. You're an educator. Well, you're not a qualified teacher, but you're an educator. And your parents are educators. Everyone that is trying to help someone else do something else is educating in some way. So why we need to label the parenting progressive parenting, possessive parenting, gentle parenting, authoritative, yeah, whatever. It's you're just educating. It's practice. And I don't think there's a right way to do it, as we've discussed. Like, there's no right or wrong way to do it. So when I see these discussions about gentle parenting is bad, well, it could be bad, it could be good, it could be effective, could be ineffective.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because everyone is looking at it from one single perspective versus the bigger picture of what, like, because there will be times where I use gentle parenting, there will be times where I don't. And it's no, stop.
But that's it. When you say gentle parenting, because meanings like the way ecologically speaking anyway, the way we look at words is each of us have a different meaning on the words. Like, meanings are in people, not words.
Yeah.
You could argue meanings are in the organism environment relationship because meanings arguably are affordances. But long story short, each of us are going to have different meanings behind those words. So when you say gentle parenting and when I say gentle parenting, they're going to mean slightly different things.
Mm.
So you need to really look at the actual behaviors that are
Mm.
being portrayed in the world. And when you look at the behaviors, whether you label it gentle parenting or not, there are some things that are going to be effective and there are some things that are not going to be effective. And when I see the complaints about whatever method of parenting or teaching, this doesn't work, well, is it that it doesn't work, or is that it's not effective in that situation because of who knows what other factors?
So I mean, I was a big fan of Super Nanny when I was younger. It was brilliant. It was
Who?
hilarious. Have you ever seen Super Nanny?
Maybe I've got a program in mind. Is there's a woman that goes into houses and tries to, well, do the nanny thing and teach the parents how to teach the kids.
Yes,
Is that,
Super
yeah?
Nanny. Yeah, Joe Frost.
That's the one.
Yes, yeah, hilarious. And sucky. But the parenting techniques used there was something that I used at first until I realized neither one of my kids care about being put on the step. Other than they will kick up 10 bells of hell for about 5 minutes and then find something to do on the stairs. My son used to go find like a magazine, like the junk magazines that come but get posted through your letterbox. Start reading those. Supposed to be thinking about your behavior, and I'm just like, why would he think about his behavior? His behavior was the way. And so in the end, I just was like, however, if he is getting completely and utterly discombobulated and just can't, he needs to have time quiet. I'm like, do you want to go? They used to take themselves to sit on the stairs, and parents used to go, why are they sat on the stairs? Because they need a moment. Oh, well, why are you punishing? I'm not. He
They're
chose
doing
to
it on their
take
own.
himself. He chose to go upstairs. Oh, well, you should get him down. He shouldn't be upstairs. Why? He needs a minute upstairs. He needs time upstairs.
Co-agency that they can help decide what they
And then you
want
have
to do.
another situation where my daughter was like, "I'm going to take the brush upstairs and brush my hair in on my own," and I'm like, "Why?" "Oh, because I want to." And I'm like, "Why?" And she has a tendency to not brush her hair, so it gets knotted and matted. I'm like, Erin, are you going to brush your hair or are you going to pretend to brush your hair? I'm like, okay, I would prefer you to stay downstairs and brush your hair just to make sure that you're getting through everything. It's the same situation, different context.
I'm curious, does she, like, with her experience, does she know what it's like when her hair is all knotted and nasty, or have you always prevented that?
Oh no, she does, because in the end we have to get through it. So we go through, and in the end, once it gets to that point, we do have to intervene because otherwise society goes, you're not looking after her properly. And we have had that.
Right. But she doesn't want her hair, what, brushed? She doesn't like it? Because obviously,
She doesn't want to do it.
She just
It's
doesn't want to do
it's
it.
an effort. It's an effort thing.
Ah, okay. But she doesn't mind when her hair is all knotted.
Oh no, she absolutely hates it.
But she recognizes if she doesn't brush her hair, it gets knotted.
Sometimes. So
Sometimes.
usually there is a prompt and a reminder. It's like, okay, cool. You don't have to brush your hair, but if you don't brush your hair, this is what it would be like, and it'd be knotted. Do you remember how much it hurt when we had to untangle it? Or we can cut your hair. I don't want to cut my hair. I like my hair like this. I said, okay, fine. If you like your hair like this, that's fine. However, that means you got to brush it.
Yeah, that's the sort of conversation that I mean that's the parenting, the educating, the learning, the conversations. They're the ones that when I think about the teachers that are discussing all of these different issues, I don't know, partly because of the teacher-student ratio, I don't know how, if, when, what those conversations look like.
Mm.
Because
They
if
probably don't.
well, yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I'm getting at. If they don't happen, why would those children that can't read or can't do whatever, why would they learn to do the thing? If if they don't need to, I mean, we've seen all of the. I imagine you've seen all of the videos about school teaches me the whatever like mitochondria of the cell and the math stuff, but it doesn't teach me about all these life skills that I really need. I'm like, okay, when you're 10, do you care about learning how taxes work?
You're talking about boy band.
Oh, that's one of the things, yeah. That's one of, I mean, that's probably the most popular song out there about it, but there are loads of other videos, conversations.
NCA, another one.
Yep, yeah,
Goldfish.
yep. There's quite a few
Goldfish are
there.
poetry. It's motivational. Yeah. Let's make everyone feel good instead of actually providing something and talking about what we need to talk about. Yes, make people feel good. And that's it. Anyway.
Yes, yes. Continue singing if you'd like, but but the
Okay. No.
but
What's happened to him over the last couple of years? No.
oh yeah, yes, true, true, true. Hmm. Yeah,
Mm,
so when it comes to these conversations, the adults looking back at school say, why didn't school teach me these things? But the children in school are saying, why am I learning these things?
mm,
And then I look at the educational system and the curriculum, and well, they're trying to teach skills. How do you teach those skills? Well, you got to teach things that the kids don't know about. So you need to give them a reason to learn about those things. And as I mentioned a second ago, why would a 10-year-old care about how taxes work?
I wouldn't.
No. If you stand up at the front of a class of 20, 30 kids and say, right, today we're going to learn how income tax works, or how you save your money, or how you balance your accounts. I mean, you could do that in a maths lesson. How many of them are going to pay attention? They don't do they don't need to do any of that. There's no reason for them to learn any of that. When it turns out that they graduate and now they need to get over student debt, oh, I don't know how to do this. Unless there is a reason to manage it, people won't, which is why I think so many students in the UK specifically, because in America the student debt's a little bit different. I think that's why some of the students struggle so much with their money because they're like, oh, I have loads of money from student finance. I'm going to go out and party lots and buy loads of drinks. Great. Did you budget that for your rent? If not, you're going to have no money. After the first one, they realize, oh damn, I have no money to pay rent, and they learn pretty quick how to budget.
Yep.
Do they still get enough money from the government? That's a whole other conversation. Depends on student and all the rest of the allowances and maintenance and the rest of it. But they still learn how to budget, and then they realize, oh damn, you know what? I probably should get a job. And they learn when they need to learn. They don't learn that stuff at school. But then they complain they didn't learn it at school.
Mm,
Maybe, just maybe, put it out there. Maybe you were taught at school, but you didn't remember because all you cared about was the next thing. Like, oh, I have PE next period. I'm going to prepare for football lesson, basketball lesson, cross country, whatever you're doing in PE. Or we have English next, or science next, or art next. I'm going to focus on that because this math thing is boring. So you don't remember it, don't pay attention. It comes to graduating university, you go, damn, I wish I was taught how to budget in school. You were, you just don't remember. Small
I
little
would
rant
think
there.
they probably were taught. We were taught, but just we didn't
It's on the
realize.
curriculum.
Hmm?
It's in the curriculum.
Is it?
Yeah, it's in the national curriculum. It's not learn how taxes work, but percentages, inclines, income tax,
That's what I
compound,
was thinking.
like all
Yeah.
of the actual mathematic functions of all of this is taught in school.
And what I would love to, what would have been, I suppose, for helpful from my experience, to know that. Not necessarily know that it was taxes, but it's like this is used in your real life. I'm like, how?
But it's on the test. Like when you look at the tests, and this is one of the things that drive me nuts, right? Teachers will teach percentages. So I'm going to use percentages as an example. They'll use percentages. How do you take 10% off something, 20% off something? What is 5% of that thing? And they'll give you a ton of questions, loads of questions. You do them on the board, you do your homework. I can now do percentages. Then when it comes to the tests, because the tests try and make it match the real world, they don't give you the tests in the same format you were taught in the class. They say, oh, so and so is going to the shops and there's a 10% discount. How much are the apples worth? Well, that's a real world scenario. But because of the way the teachers are teaching the kids go, okay, that question isn't the way the questions were done in class. Representative practice design. Hello, like teachers, be useful, please. Um, so the student goes, I don't know how to do this. I can't do this. I struggle, blah, blah, blah. So they have to relearn how to do percentages, but they are reading the words from the paper. Then when it comes to being an adult and they look at something and go, okay, that's 10% off. What do I need to do again? I need a piece of paper. I need to write down the questions and put 10%, the full number, and then do the whatever, however they did the percentages. And then they need to do that on a piece of paper. That is the same skill, but it traditionally has been broken down in the way it's been taught. Okay, what do we need to teach? I need to teach 10% is this as a decimal point. No, you don't. You really don't need to know that. What do I need to do to make all of these numbers work on a piece of paper? Says the teacher. Then says the examiner. Okay, what's this scenario in words? Okay, now actual adult go out do this thing. I don't know how to do that. Yes, you do, but it's been broken down so much that you can't marry the things up.
We did. I did this with my son. Oh, what was it? It was. I can't remember exactly what it was, but we were talking about how much to earn to do a certain thing. I think it was we were. I was showing him how I was working out how much money I needed to make for a month to be able to do X, Y, Z. Like showing him exactly what I was doing because he was watching and was interested. I'm like, do you want to help me? And one of the things like, there was some really like because it was actual physical like actual figures, no rounding was done. And he was like, well, how do I work this out? And how do I work this? First thing first was that when the pound was there, he was stumped,
Yep.
completely and utterly stumped. I removed the pound. He's like, oh, it's that. And I'm like, interesting. Interesting. That's
That's what the
fascinating.
teachers do.
And then I'm like, okay, but you are aware that these are the same thing. That and that is the same as that and that. And so we were going through it, and it was like that was it. I remember we had bought some Radnor Splash on Amazon, and it was a crate of 24 because everyone in the house likes it, and it's better than Coke. Um, and so we were getting that, and he went, "Oh, how much for
Drinks,
20?"
just to clarify,
Yeah,
drinks.
drinks, obviously. Um,
What if people didn't know the brand because they're from who knows where, and then you say Coke?
that's true, I suppose. Anyway, yeah, and he was like, "Oh, what would 24 cartons of it?" And it was something like 18.99. So it's obviously the 99 pence. And I was like, well, how would I work that out? Well, I wouldn't care about the 99 pence, to be honest. And it would be close enough for me to know.
So this is something I debated with. I remember we were going. I say we, my family and I. Well, us as a four. We were going to somewhere to eat. It was like a go out eat sort of thing, and we were talking about percentages and how we work out percentages in our head. And my mum, the way that she does it is she actually works out the percentages. So she'll look at 100%, she'll work out 10%, so she'll have 100 and then a 10 and then take it off. Right. And then for me, I'm just like, well, I'll move the decimal point and then take it off. So I'm doing the same thing, but I don't visualize the two different numbers and then do a subtraction. I
Mm,
move the decimal point and then do the subtraction. And my sister was like, I don't know how to do that. Because when she was taught how to do percentages, she was taught on a piece of paper to do it some weird way that I can't remember because I don't do it like that. And she really struggled to visualize all those numbers at the same time and try and do it. And and then I asked, okay, well, how would you add these numbers together? Just mental arithmetic. And it was like a 27 and 36 sort of thing. She goes, oh, I really don't know. I'd struggle because she wouldn't be able to put them like above each other and then go 6 add 7 equals and then do that number and then carry the one. And she wouldn't be able to do that. Like, because there's too much to try and remember. My mum, the way that she did it is she would round it to the nearest. Oh, wait, I I know how I would do it. I would round it to the nearest 10 and then
yeah,
remember the number differences. So 27 and 36, I would go 40 and 30, so that's 70, and then seven seven differences 3, 6 differences 4. So I know 3 and 4 is 7. So I'd do 70 take 7, 63. That's how I
yeah,
would do it. But my mum, she would take one number, then add the smaller one. So 27 add 6 is 33, and then she'd add the 30, which she'd left off. So they're two different ways of doing the same calculation, but they both get to the answer. But because my sister was so drilled in doing this, I need to write it down on a piece of paper, I need to do this, she couldn't do it in the real world, as it were.
mm,
And when I look at the math being taught at schools, I reckon I was talking math, but this could be applied to literally any subject. When you look at those things, they are broken down so much that they don't really represent how to use those things in the real world.
yeah,
So going back to how we got to start this conversation, when people say, "Oh, we weren't taught this at school," yes, you were, but it wasn't representative of the environment you're in right now. So you're struggling to bring that back. And when we think about ecological dynamics and contrasting that with traditional approaches of education, adjusting or adapting. Are you
yeah,
adjusting a skill to the new environment, ecological, or are you having to adapt how you learn to do something to something else because it no longer works?
yeah,
If you're adapting its traditional approaches, then it's less effective for long-term learning. That's
yeah,
why we should be doing ecological.
yeah. I have an interesting discussion point to bring in. So I was taking what we discussed in the last, like we have the what do you want, what do you have, what do you do, which is basically the ecological approach simplified and very, very simple. Okay, taking my assumptions, not the assumptions of other people, which is we will get to that.
Loan of intelligence much?
Huh?
I said loan of intelligence much?
Yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. Yes, a little bit intelligence, a lot.
Just take this year-long experience of this thing and
Yeah,
dump it.
just boil it down to three things. It's fine. It's easy. It's simple. It was interesting because I actually started testing it
Mhm.
on my poor friends and family, but they were struggling with things. So I'm like, well, I have this thing, and especially with Carl, as you experienced, he is very open and will just ask more questions.
I love people like that, by the way, just like,
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah, absolutely. That's why we're still friends after so many years, because he will keep asking questions. Even if something he doesn't fully understand, he'll just keep asking, keep asking, and keep asking. I'm like, so I can just go, okay, cool. How does this actually help? Because he was talking, he needed help with something. And I was like, okay, cool. What do you want? Because it's easy to start with what people want,
Mm-mm.
because
What's the
everybody,
goal?
yeah, yeah, what's the goal? What do you want to achieve? And we went through that, and that seemed relatively simple, except for that he wasn't sure what he wanted. So we dove into that a little bit and spoke about that. And then I asked the question, what do you have? And he goes, what do you mean? And I'm like, interesting, cool. So this is actually really unhelpful. Just saying, what do you have? Because I spoke obviously about the physical environment, because an ecological approach environment. Anyway, what you mean? The things I have here are like, yes, but it's not just that. And I'm like, okay, cool. What else is it? What is their experiences? It's what they believe, it's how they feel. And we spent a good like couple of hours discussing this. I'm like, okay, what does that mean to what do you have? Really, it's the context. It's what is the context in many ways, and what is the environment that you're in. It's all of that, but also none of that.
The way I don't know whether I described it like this last time, but the what you have is di in taking direct perception is affordances.
Yes, yeah, it is. What affordances do you have?
Yeah,
But
so
how do I say
opportunities
that?
for behavior.
That's where I got to. It
Yeah.
was what are the opportunities for behavior?
What opportunities do you have?
Yeah,
What
yeah,
opportunities of behavior? What opportunities for action do you have? Which is literally affordances, just explained in more words that maybe mean more to the person.
yeah. So it still has the have in it. What opportunities? Because that was one of the things I was trying to.
Well, what are your options?
Yeah,
Basically what it is. What do you want to do, and then what are your options? So what could you do, sort of thing.
yeah.
Because they're opportunities for behavior. And when exploring opportunities for behavior, you, as an individual that can also receive, will be able to perceive their affordances and
Hmm.
potentially express some affordances they aren't attuned to, which literally is what the coaching normally is. It's going, well, you haven't mentioned this. They might not have mentioned it because they are perceiving it differently to you.
Hmm.
I can't do that because of this X, Y, Z. But in
Which
that
is
X,
where
Y,
the
Z,
kind of beliefs, feelings, all of that other bit that we explore, because that's what we were discussing. Because he got stuck on the have. It was
mm,
very much, oh well, I have this caravan, and I have this, and I have that, and I have this. And I'm like, yeah, mm-hmm. But I could see all of the other things, the belief system and the experiences. And so I'm like, okay, cool. It's not working. The have is not, it's not, I have all of this knowledge that is not being easily exposed from what I'm saying. So I'm like, okay, cool, I need to work on that. Because the have is,
the have is affordances.
yes,
What you asked, speaking ecologically, is what do you perceive?
yeah, that is what I'm
Which,
basically saying.
which is literally everything because you're talking about every energy array that they are currently surrounded in and have ever been surrounded in, which is basically saying, hey, what's your experience of life? What
Obviously, I have it constrained to the.
no, but when you say what do you have, you're
Yeah,
asking them
it
about
is
affordances.
unconstrained. That is true. Yes.
Yeah, so
Whereas,
you'd need to constrain it, which is why I would imagine Carl went in all directions because it's such a broad question. Like,
mm,
what do you have? What do you have available to you? And then you can constrain that down as much as you want. But that is the constraint-led approach. That's what
yeah,
we're doing when we're asking questions. We constrain the experiences people are having so they hopefully, in an ideal world, give us some of the affordances that they're looking to use through goal-directed behavior,
yeah,
but you need to constrain those, and those as beginners I would imagine would constrain their ability to do things more than others because they want to keep it simple, which is where they don't expose all of the affordances. In physical movement, when people are learning a skill they go all stiff and they're like all jarry and jolty movements because they don't want to mess it up. Like when you learn something new, most of the time from my experience when coaching, the coach says, oh, loosen up, relax a bit, to the beginners, because the beginners, like, they become stiff, or like I would imagine in music they pluck something. It's sort of like I have done this thing. It's sort of like
yes,
I go from the top of the string to the bottom of the string and now it's done.
yes.
Whereas those that
That
are
is, that is one
those are
of
more skillful, they're a little bit more sort of like fluid
yeah.
in their movement.
When I used to teach guitar, one of the things with strumming was very much like down, 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 up, down, and it was very much just loosening and feeling what you were doing.
A different way to explain the feeling what you're doing is attuning to the other degrees
Yeah,
of
I
freedom.
was trying to avoid saying that, but yes. Because one of the things that I'm really struggling with is because of this language that I have, I'm using it all the time.
Are you speaking about the language of perception?
Yes.
Language of direct perception, ecological approach.
Yeah, yeah. And so one of the things that does is it instantly confuses people.
I think if instead of using the jargon, you use what the jargon could mean. That's
Mm,
what I try and do when I'm explaining it to other people. Like degrees of freedom is fairly self-explanatory. How many degrees of freedom do you have? At my elbow, there is one. At my forearm, there is one because I can twist it. At my wrist, there is two because I can go left and right and forwards and backwards. My shoulder, there is three. Like there are degrees of freedom in movement and degrees of freedom inside of well, everything. There are degrees, and those beginners will try and reduce the amount of degrees of freedom that are needed. I mean, then you can go into Bernstein's like degrees of freedom problem and trying to find invariance and variance in environments and all the other stuff. But at the end of the day, degrees of freedom is fairly self-explanatory. And if
mm,
you ask someone, okay, what opportunities do you have? There will be degrees of freedom within those opportunities, which you can then explore through the constraints-led approach, constraining the environment through discussion, but also through action, because perception is for action.
yeah, yeah. And that's the exciting thing, because one of the things I'm doing right now is setting up my coaching sales page. And one of the things that is a good idea when it comes to marketing this kind of stuff is to have a process. I mean, the process is literally the ecological approach, and how I'm going to put that on my marketing sales page is
How do you do that?
like, how am I supposed to do that? That's what I've been trying to do. It's just working out a way of constraining the environment. My goal is this. What could I do? I can put the whole damn thing on there. Yeah, no one's gonna hide. They're either going to be, they're gonna go diving into it really deep.
It comes back to the reading age, though, doesn't it? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
hey,
they're either gonna go
hey,
nuts.
I know you haven't learned how to read any of this complex academic jargon, but I'm going to throw you pages of it at once.
Exactly, exactly. And so it's trying to add that layer on top, add that constraint of like, okay, this is the environment we're discussing this in. What opportunities and the opportunities I have are to play with the language a little bit. But I do like the like what do you want? What could you do? What will you do? That's quite like I just was as you were saying that because what could you do doesn't mean what will you do. Because it really is want do, really.
What it really is perceived for action.
Well, yes, of course. But yeah, it is. Of course it is, and you know it is. We both know it is, but still they don't.
I'm just emphasizing the point to the audience, if they haven't already got it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so did you get to your third point? Because you had three questions, don't you? Did you get to the third one with Carl, or did you just stick on that?
Um, a little bit, not too much on the do. I think we did get stuck on the what I had is what did you have? And we discussed some of those and there were opportunities for action. We had a little bit of discussion on that. Um, and then kind of he got a bit overwhelmed.
Yeah,
So
that's fair. I
it
mean,
was a
you
pause.
are asking him, hey, experience of life, tell me.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm like, well, shit.
But that right there is you learning through the constraints-led approach.
Yes.
Because you constrained your environment to an individual, and then you
Mm,
explored the affordances available to you at the time, and now
it's
you're
fun.
attuning, now you're attuning your behavior in appropriate measures, I
Because
guess
of
you could say.
course, normally I talk to you and we just talk in the language all the time.
Yep. Because you have expertise in this context, transferring it outside, well, now you need to be able to transfer the schools? What word was I even looking for?
Skills?
Skills, that's the one. I had SKOOLS in my head. That's what I was thinking about. And I'm like, no, that's not a word. Well, it is a word, it's a name of a company. Um, but yes. So those different ways of explaining things in this context transferred somewhere else, that's where like the adjustable or adaptable words get involved. Are you adjusting your skills, adjusting what you say and your language, or are you having to adapt it, i.e., completely change what you're saying? If you're
That was
adapting,
something I had in my marketing was adaptable, but it's not, is it? It's not being adaptable. It's adjustable.
yes, I don't know how effective those words would be for general population because the meaning behind those words can be synonymous with
Yeah.
many people, even people in the ecological like world when they're discussing these things can get confused. I also get confused with which one's which sometimes. I'm saying, wait, which one's the one that eco does? Is that the adaptable or the adjustable? So I believe it's adaptable because you're adapting your skill to the environment rather than adjustable, but adaptable and adjustable are very similar. So I would like to use a different word there, but I don't know which one's most appropriate. So I'm sticking with adaptable for now. Uh,
Yeah, because that is the one I primarily use as adaptable because everybody wants to be more adaptable to what they're doing. And all of I hear, oh wow, we've got words. I skipped some there.
English
Um,
is good today.
tis very good. Um,
English we speak good, we do.
yeah, it's quite hilarious, really.
Yoda reference. Um, Carry on.
Because one of the things I hear from people it constantly, especially in the business world, because they are not exposed to any of this, which I don't understand,
No one's
is
exposed to this unless they're in
it's so
academics.
annoying. So annoying. It's so
I'm getting close to my my video.
how is this video?
The video's about 40 minutes so far.
And you're
And
half
I've
through.
yeah, and I'm about halfway through, so it'll probably be about an hour 20.
I'm impressed you got it under 2 hours, I have to say.
I mean, I was thinking it's gonna be 2.5 hours, but yeah,
Yeah, I am impressed. But yes, one of the things I hear all the time is it. One of the phrases that I used is almost like the denial of reality. Like, what is actually real? What is the real experience that is happening? And I'm like, ew.
that's
I
not
mean,
easy.
real is a meaty one, but I like asking those questions. I'm just like, okay, cool. Are you actually looking at what's happening, or just going, I don't like that. It's not happening. Let's pretend it doesn't exist.
There are so many complexities in there. I mean,
Oh yeah,
to start with, I mean, you're going right the way back to assumptions of perception and what is existence, because we can't perceive something unless we understand what knowledge is. And gaining knowledge, obviously, knowledge has various definitions depending on which epistemological approach you take. So when you say, is it real or not? Well, okay, do you trust your senses or not? Let's go all the way back to what existence is. Um, which obviously, depending on their assumptions, if they assume we can't trust our senses and that there needs to be a copy of the world, well, now they're assuming indirect perception. And so their assumptions, base assumptions, will change their answers to your question. And if you're coming from direct perception, you're going to go from a different for different answers as well. So I'd be curious to see where that actually goes because you're, as Rob Gray would say, you're two different trees that have
yeah,
branches sort of crossing up here, but when you come down to the roots, you're in different
they're
places.
very different. Yeah, yeah. I love the two trees. I like that approach, the branches and stuff.
The analogy, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That was one of the, and that's the stuff I'm kind of working on at the moment. Is matching the language and just tweaking and attuning to what is around.
I guess as a businessy curious question, when
Mm.
you're targeting keywords, when you say your website, I guess for context, I should probably ask, are you creating content that can be surfaced online, either through website web pages or emails or videos and podcasts and stuff sort of thing? Are you making content that is searchable online, or is it just a landing page for people for you to direct people to?
At the moment, it's a landing page to direct people to, but eventually it will be kind of contenty.
Okay. The reason I ask is what keywords would you search, would you direct the content for? Because at the end of the day, people online searching in Google, Bing, whatever search engine they use, most of the time it'll be Google, they're going to search for things. And
Best productivity tool.
you're not going to appear on search if your keyword targeting is ecological psychology. I
Oh, it's
can't.
not going to be ecological psychology. Of course, it's not going to be ecological psychology.
But that's why I'm just trying to envisage your webpage. Like, what keywords are you going to target?
Probably the keywords that everybody targets.
Yeah, so how are you gonna? This is just a genuine curiosity. How are you going to write those pages targeted for questions and things from, I would imagine, traditional terms? Like, I would imagine you're going to have a page somewhere that says neurodiverse. Like, you're going to,
Absolutely, that is basically guaranteed.
yeah, you're going to target the neurodiversity keyword term. How would you try and format that page to target the word, but also somewhat challenge the assumptions behind the word from an ecological approach? Because
That's a very
you
good
can't
question.
say neurodiversity isn't real. Like, no one's going to click on that and say, "Hey, yeah, I want to be coached by this person."
Yeah, no, it's a constant fascination.
It doesn't give
I
me an answer.
I know. Well, I don't have an answer really. I'm still exploring it. I think it goes back.
Juxtaposition. I don't have an answer. I'm still exploring it. So you do have an answer.
Okay, yeah, fine. Thank you.
I think I
At the
used that. We used that word right. Juxtaposition. Maybe not.
it is
Hmm.
a beautiful juxtaposition, which sums up the complexities of everything that we do. What answer do I have? I think it is very much it's the symptoms, the experiences of neurodiversity that I'm targeting, which is in itself I'm not happy with because it's just, I mean, it depends on what we're actually doing, is depending on which symptoms we have, and assuming there are symptoms that everybody has, but they're all different, and depending on what environment we're in, people who are not neurodiverse would also have those symptoms, assuming they are symptoms. So there's that. And going through like,
I'm so glad you spoke that out loud.
yeah. Um, and it's trying to, because the neurodiverse community is a very good place for me to begin, as I already have an audience there. And already a lot of the people who come through my door, as it says, they have ADHD, they have autism. I mean, I'm autistic, I'm diagnosed autistic. And so I have all of that. So that's an easy route for me.
Easier. Yeah.
But easier, but it is complicated because my relationship with that word is tenuous because there's so many assumptions that need unpacking from what is being said. And also, a lot of what I can do actually can help everyone.
So wordsmithing here a little bit. Symptoms. You obviously didn't like that word.
Experiences?
That's what I would lean towards.
Yeah, yeah, experiences. Neurodiverse experiences.
I personally wouldn't use neurodiverse in there
Yeah,
because
I like experiences.
that doesn't hold true. Well, that's an ecological term,
Yeah.
experience, because we are perceiving for action, and action is experience. We are experiencing the world, and that's what the ecological approach looks to describe. Real life
That also
experiences.
unpacks since that I have. So obviously you've got in marketing there are pain points which you have to poke at. That is the default kind of aggressive stance.
Well, it's a noun thing. There is a
Yeah,
pain point. There is a symptom. There is this
yeah,
thing. There is a snapshot.
yeah.
Sod off.
And I'm just like, no, I'm just gonna talk about experiences. But then when you talk about experiences, you actually have the emotions that are attached to those experiences. So yes, they are struggle things. There are things that are there are difficulties with that thing.
I'm going to say something which may help, but also may add far more complexity to this.
Excellent.
I think you need to verb your website.
Oh, let's verb my website. Right. Thanks.
Does that make sense?
I think so. In other words, a lot of what is said is very much noun. It's neurodiverse, it's labels versus moving to the process. It's a process, which is basically sums up everything that I do anyway. It's not a you do one thing and then it's done. It's a process. So I need to process everything, which is experiences instead of symptoms. Uh, it's got simplicity.
Simplicity is a process
Yeah.
because you're simplifying.
Yeah, process of simplicity. That's a good process. What other words do I have? I'm going to look. Have a look.
But but it's also when you're making a statement, making a claim, all of the copywriting that you're
Mm,
doing, instead of looking at it as a sole pain point, well, pain point is a noun. How do you verb pain point,
difficulties.
which is
Experience.
difficult experiences? Struggling with difficult experiences?
Yeah.
Do you have pain points? Are you struggling with difficult experiences? Like meanings could be perceived very similarly, but
But
the fundamental assumptions that build those words are drastically different.
yeah, yeah.
Pain point, there is a symptom, which means there is a cause, linear causality. Struggling experiences, there are multifactorial elements that go into this multi-causality, which means we need to have a multifactorial approach, ecological approach, holistic approach.
Transformation. There has to be a transformation because obviously it's from point A to B.
Yeah, that's a load of bullshit. Um, how would you verb that? I guess that's not technically verbing, but it's adding an ecological spin on it.
It would exposing opportunities for behavior. It would be goal-directed behavior. That's the end, I suppose, would be
So what does a transformation assume?
transfer. Well, a transformation assumes there's a problem that needs to be solved. You need to go from A to B. This thing is not right, so you must get here. It change.
Yeah. So to me, when people say I can help with your transformation, what that really means is I'm going to help with your change. Great. Yeah, so what? What does that actually mean? We're going to transform you. Yeah, I'm always transforming. I'm always changing. What am I actually getting out of it? What am I actually doing from it?
Mm. And so talking about what you'll actually do.
Yeah. So practice. You're going to change their practice. You're going to change their behaviors, change the way that they work. How,
Yeah.
how do you want to word that? Obviously, that's up to you and what the point of the course, the product thing is. But are you being transformational? Well, everyone is transformational because we exist and change is constant. So when you say transformational, there is a significant change. Okay, if it's a significant change, is that really going to benefit you? That would be my question to those people that are doing transformational changes. Do you actually want a significant change in the way that you behave? Or do you
That
just want
I
to
actually had
adjust?
this conversation with a client recently
Or do you just want to adjust
about
something slightly?
about their marketing, and they were like, I want loads more subscribers. I want all of that. I'm like, yeah, but this is your lived experience right now. Do you really want all of this on top? Oh, do you? No. I'm like, okay, okay.
But that's it. That's the ecological approach. Like when it comes to learning and developing, it's not a okay, I'm gonna go from this person to that person because you don't know what that person is. That
Mm,
person has objective metrics typically around it. I want X subscribers, X views, or I want X medals or X wins or certain time on whatever event track thing it is. Like there are objective metrics to go, I want to get to there. Okay, great, that's a goal, cool. But how do you actually get there? The
mm.
process of getting there, that's what you're looking to learn. Do you want a significant change in the way that you practice? Maybe, but will you be able to do that quickly? I don't think so, because it takes time. And if your skills are very contextual and very driven in one context, learning how to apply those skills in a different context to get a different goal is going to require a lot of work, a lot of training, a lot of effort.
One of the things that I recognized recently is what I'm very good at is the process of what you just said there. I'm very good at helping people with the process of getting there. I can take all of the courses and the programs and the things, the objects that they've taken, the strategies, the step-by-step things that they've learned and go, okay, so that way. Is that what you want? This is how you would do that. Do you want that? It's coaching in a nutshell, but that right there is the process of getting there. I like that. I'm going to use that.
Yeah, there's lots of different things like that that I would try and approach the way that I word things on a website. Uh, and actually, while you're speaking about websites, I'm looking to reinvigorate my own at the moment. Right, it's been a static page, really. I mean,
Well,
it's
why? Why? Why do you want to reinvigorate it?
because I want to encourage readers as well as YouTube viewers because
Ah,
not everyone will sit and watch a hour and a half video about ecological psychology, but they might go onto a web page, find something, and then just look at a couple of bullet points around something, or maybe a couple of the questions that are on a page, or look at an image on a page. They can quickly scroll through a however long the web page would be about an introduction to ecological psychology. They can scroll through that and dart backwards and forwards, whereas a video is much more linear.
mm.
So I'm thinking, you know what, I might write some blog posts about this stuff.
I
Uh,
did. I did see that your Substack was.
I actually did something on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm treating my Substack as what is kind of meant to be as a newsletter because I tried using it as a blog, but it really didn't work as a blog because I wrote more than Substack really wanted me to write, and not many people would want to write like read an article in their email inbox.
That's been my experience because, of course, when I wrote, not to the same length, but from a business standpoint, what I wrote was long.
Hmm. Yeah, so my current approach, for those unfamiliar, I did an email about this, is I still have the tech stuff, and that's on the Danny Talks Tech channel. I rebranded it so that it makes more sense. I'm just talking technology on there, which is what it is, Obsidian, Morgan, and anything related to PKM sort of stuff, mainly technology based. But then the Danny Hatcher channel, which was the educational side, so renamed it to just my name because it is basically me. And I got a couple of comments saying educational science sounds like a scammy name. And I was like, interesting, because it's the sort of name the AI channels make. It's like put science
Yeah.
in the name, uh, which is an interesting observation. So I changed it to my name. And those videos are video essays. So I need a place to put the scripts and the sources because that's what I'd like to see. Google Sites. It's easy. I can dump it up there. People can go to it. But I also want there to be some sort of exposure on a blog.
Yeah.
And what I realized is I already have a blog. It's in my Obsidian. So I can just put my Obsidian on a website but different because I don't want it to just be blocks of text over and over and over because that's just not fun to read. So that's how I'm looking to approach it. So I have different mediums of the same content. Medium is
Yeah.
not the message, but
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I've been. One of the things that I always think about when I produce a course or a program or a thing is the multiple mediums because there's the written and then there's the video and then audio as well because that's always really helpful and it's easy. Audio is easy.
yes, yes.
Also, there will be this is a complete side note, but it'll be interesting. I am going to start making clips from our episodes of the podcast.
Ooh, that'd
So
be exciting.
yeah, there's some clips coming out that talk about what we talk about. Like
Right,
basically,
where are you sharing them?
I'll probably be sharing them on
X.
either X or probably YouTube a little bit. I might actually just put it on our channel.
I was going to say,
Short.
if
Yeah.
they're shorts, you could put them as shorts.
Yeah, that's the kind of that was the main plan because I got an AI tool to test it out to see how good can it do with what we talk about. It's not bad.
Mm.
It does focus on productivity because I told it to because it's the easy thing for it to hook in on. But it's not bad. It does better than I ever expected it would do. Could
Nice.
we do better ourselves? Yeah, probably.
But it take
But
far longer.
will we? And at the end of the day,
Nope.
let's get the AI to do some stuff, and then we've got some extra little bits that get people into the bigger conversations. Because that's the problem. Whenever I'm thinking about what I'm producing, because this is basically talking about the whole philosophy behind my business. That's literally what we do here.
Hmm.
And same for you. So it's like, how do I hook people in, get people interested? Well, they need to. I could share one of these things and it be a massive 2 hour long conversation or an hour and a half conversation where we talk about basically a ton of stuff, or I use AI to go for a 60-second. Most of our videos are like 2 minutes because
Yeah, just throw them up as videos. I mean,
yeah,
if you want to make a thumbnail for it, feel free. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I would see it as a clips thing.
yeah, that's kind of the plan is just to have some clips for the podcast, which then I can then share on my stuff as well because
I mean, it is our thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So
Sounds
good luck
fun.
with that.
Yeah. Enjoy some clips coming out. I reckon the clips would do better on YouTube
Yeah,
than the actual podcast because podcasts are like an hour plus long, whereas clips are
yeah,
5, 10 minutes.
yeah. That's what I
So
thought.
yeah, that could be good. I just can't be asked to do all of that because I have other stuff.
Neither can I. That's why I'm using AI. But it works enough. It's good enough, which is all we need.
Yeah, and then all we need to do is just link back to the original episode. Like, as long as you've got like original episode link in the description, people can come and find the whole thing if they want more context.
Yeah, exactly. And then
And
I can
then
use some of the specific clips that are like where I'm talking about businessy stuff on my own channel too. Link you back to the original episode. See?
sounds good. Look at you being smart and all like content creator-ish.
I do like creating content. I
What
do
I reckon it's
enjoy
going to
it.
do though, do you reckon it would just take some clips out of context and then it would just be like us ranting about something and leaving context out?
I will be analyzing and checking each one.
Okay, good.
I think there was a couple where it did completely miss the point. And I'm just like, no.
Because there are some things that we say, if taken out of context, could look quite bad.
Really? No.
I mean, if you have one of us going on a rant, most likely me, going on a rant.
Oh yeah, that's some of you. That's some ranty rants. And I'm just like, that's nothing what he actually said. Let's not put that one up on social media.
Because people will listen to it and go, that's a load of rubbish. This guy's an idiot, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, but if you go like 30 seconds back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good I like the platform. It creates stupid stuff that I hate creating clips and because no one has any memory and wants to they have such a short attention span and I'm like
That's one way of looking at it.
denial of reality. Denial of reality.
Yes. Well, solipsism.
Okay, what?
Solipsism instead of realism, it's solipsism. That's one of the like most fundamental assumptions to any theory of perception.
I love it.
Yeah. It's one of those words that only academics will know and understand, which again comes back to that reading age that we spoke about right at the beginning, to loop it all the way back. If you don't have a reason to learn it, you won't.
Just gonna try to keep saying that now. It's good.
What, solipsism?
Yeah.
I have been learning some really cool words, but yeah.
Oh, give me some cool words before we finish.
Phoneme,
What?
phonemes,
Phonemes. Mm,
phonemes, yeah.
mm,
Phonomes, phonemes.
phonemes.
Yeah. They are the parts of words that are used in phonics teaching. Do you know what that is?
Phonics teaching. That's teaching with phonics. Like the
You swap the words around. Yeah, that phonics
I don't know whether
teaching.
it's syllables or it's more like yeah.
Phonemes.
Well, you two, you know, just switch it around. I'm like, yeah, 'cause that's what it fucking is.
Phonics is teaching with phonics, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
so the sounds that are created via letters or combinations of letters are phonemes. So when teachers teach through phonics, they're teaching phonemes.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Or you just teach the whole word, which is a sight word. Yeah. But some I'm not going to go off on a tangent here, but some teachers, yeah, I know.
I'm
Some
not going off on a tangent, but here is a tangent.
No, I'm not going off. When I said I'm not going off, I said I'm not going to go off and like 10 minutes talk about this thing. But some teachers teach non-sight words as sight words, which is one of the issues discussed in Gen Alpha can't read, speak stuff.
Oh, I want to know more now.
Cool. Instead of teaching phonemes, they teach sight words. So instead of breaking a word down, breaking, instead of breaking the word down, it's just breaking. So sight word. And some teachers are teaching non-sight words, so breaking as sight words. So the student would recognize breaking as breaking, but they wouldn't be able to break it down. So if they saw break, they'd go, I have no idea what that is because they haven't seen it. They can't break it down. That's the ideas anyway. So parts and wholes, Gestalt theories, etc., etc. I have a different approach to that, obviously taken from ecological approach, because when you look at it and you break things down, sometimes it's harder to put things back together, which is why sight word teaching and the reading recovery program that uses sight words more than anything else is useful a lot of the time. Because you just recognize the word as the word rather than breaking it down into its parts.
Yeah.
But so yeah, right. Let's close it out before we end up talking for another hour.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay. Bye.